Finally, thank you. Thank God the Mets got a dub tonight, guys. We have so much to get into, not just from this really good ball game for the New York Mets that finally decided to show up offensively after not looking good at all in that series sweep to the Cubs, and me having to rant when I hate to rant. I hate to act that way. Finally, I can act a little rational and a positive notion, guys. We have so much to get into, not only on the game, but also on a lot of key updates regarding the New York Mets and especially their front office. We'll be deep diving it all in tonight's show, so make sure to smash that like and subscribe button for everyone as you're first chiming in, as we'll be breaking down the nit and gritty about this 7-1 victory in game one of a 4-game set over the Pittsburgh Pirates. But more than anything, folks, before I do anything here in the live show, let's get those W's in the chat. Let's spam them right now. It feels so good to say that. I know that, again, a 3-game stretch isn't long, but for a Mets fan, that, again, when you watch every single game, it felt like forever. So, guys, get those dubs in the chat right now. Everyone in the live chat, people on replay, let's get dubs in the comments below. Finally, the Mets get themselves back in the win column. They are now 90 wins on the year. They are the second team in all the NL with 90 wins on the year. That's great to see. Again, it took long enough. Same thing when it comes to not only their 90 wins, but also how they currently stack up in the NL East. Because the Braves had an off day, the Mets are officially one full game up right now in first, and hopefully the Mets continue to get on a roll here. Hopefully they win this series. The Mets really need it right now, but I have to give so much credit, again, after being so upset after what we saw the past 3 days. No, I never said or thought that the sky was falling, but I was really frustrated because you know how good this Mets team is, and you know how well they should be playing against teams well below 500. They were on full display tonight. I was really happy with this offense night and day in a one game versus the 3 games that they just had against the Chicago Cubs. Plenty of positive takeaways from this, including even Joely Rodriguez. I'm not getting my hopes up. It was nice seeing to get the 2 outs there for the Mets, the 2 innings rather, to get the final 6 outs of the game without a problem. 6 up, 6 down. But guys, let's talk about this New York Mets game. But before I do, thank you all so much for chiming in. This was so needed. How's it going, Shadow? Great member. How's it going, Darren, Stephen A., all my great members here in the live show? For my normal viewers in the chat, thank you so much. Dave, thank you so much for the $2 donation. Hi, Wardy Mets finally win 7-1 LFGM. Again, this is what the Mets needed. Dave, thank you so much for the dono. I know you probably saw my email. I'll get back to you later tonight or tomorrow. The Mets actually looked like a team that cared tonight against a lesser opponent. On Roberto Clemente Day, no less, which I have a little tidbit that I want to share, a fun story regarding Roberto Clemente and why this type of day means a lot for me, not only as a baseball fan, but overall as a person. I was disappointed to see the fact that it's 50 years since the guy's passing. He still hasn't had the number 21 retired. But again, I'm not going to get into too much of a debate. I'm not happy about that, but I am happy about the Mets balling out tonight on Roberto Clemente Day. Again, they had his sons in attendance against the Pirates. You had 12 to 14 plus previous, not just Mets, but overall MLB players that have won the Roberto Clemente Award, including the guy on the bump tonight that had one of his best starts of the entire season from a strikeout standpoint, and that was Cookie Carlos Carrasco. Guys, let's get some dubs in the chat. Let's get some cookie emojis here in the live show. That's what I would love to see. This was a great start for Cookie. Doesn't matter that he's facing the Pirates, man. Again, the pitch count was up early. He still gives you 6 strong and to have a season-high 11 Ks. That felt great. And again, the Mets got the offense early. We know the story with this Mets team. When they score within the first couple innings of a game, the first 1, 2, or 3, you know that there's a great chance for them to win a ball game, and they did exactly that. They never looked back. They never gave the Pirates a chance, and that's not just because of some strong pitching tonight, but also because of an offense that actually played as they're supposed to, even without Mark Cannon in the lineup today. It was great to see them all, again, outside. It's funny how when you look offensively tonight, the Mets' worst batter was the guy that's been the hottest batter for them for the most part for the past couple of weeks, and Eduardo Escobar. That means that things are going right. When, again, the guy that's in the bottom of the order in the 7th spot is your worst hitter tonight. It didn't matter. The Mets, Pete Alonso, really good at bats. Love to see that. Took his time, was patient. So was this entire Mets offense tonight, from Brandon Nimmo with 3 walks. I don't care that you didn't get a hit, Brandon. This is what I want to see. This is what we need to see more of. You getting on base at a consistent clip as the leadoff hitter. He did exactly that. Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos, who finally broke out. We got a lot to get into, guys. You know the drill. We got the plethora of notes here. I'll be breaking down here in a second on what was a very strong game, a much needed. I cannot emphasize this enough. If the Mets did not win tonight, you guys would have saw me literally starting the show from the top of my rooftop, and I don't even know if I'm even half joking. And again, I am that fan that from the rants that we have done the past 48 hours, I hate acting like that. I'm not the fan that has written off this team once all year. It wasn't changing because of the Cubs series, obviously. But that was the lowest point all year for the Mets. And naturally, it feels like that they can't get any lower than that. They control their own destiny. And again, focus on what is ahead in front of you. They were able to do exactly that to a T. I'm very proud of this team to come out and perform the way that they did from both sides of the ball. Doesn't matter on who they were facing. This was, and actually I shouldn't say that. I'm a hypocrite. It does matter who they're facing because, again, the Mets went 5-7 through the first 12 games against well below 500 clubs entering tonight's ball game. That made it that much more important, that much more imperative that the Mets came out guns a-blazing early. And they just, everything was exactly what you wanted from a Mets fan tonight. I'm very happy to be sitting here and finally talking to you guys after a rough couple days about a positive series for the Mets. I know I really need a new intro. Yep, I'm just slacking on that one, Dolph. It's okay, though. We'll get it done either before the end of the year or certainly in the offseason. Shadow, thank you for the dono. Shadow says, damn, I said 8-1 yesterday on yesterday's podcast. I was still LGM. Close, Shadow. You're very close. Appreciate the dono again. Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you guys all so much for being in here. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Big Apple Hockey, how you doing? Appreciate you being in here. This was so needed. I'll break down the game again in another couple minutes, guys. I don't know how long we're going to go on tonight. We may take callers. I don't know yet. I don't know when I'm going to cut things off for people on replay. I just want to go with the flow right now and share my raw thoughts. But one thing that I do want to share with you guys, just a nice, fun story real quick before we deep dive the game. Roberto Clemente Day. Why does it mean so much to me? You know, it's not like I'm Hispanic or anything. It shouldn't matter. We all know the impact that he's had on the game of baseball. And again, he literally passed away on a flight when he was giving back to the community still because Roberto Clemente was just that above and beyond amazing human being. I have him up there with all the legends in MLB history that really paved the way for the players today, especially dealing with adversity, whether it's because of racial reasons or other reasons. It starts with Jackie Robinson. I don't think Roberto is too far behind him. Roberto Clemente meant so much to the entirety of baseball. I really need to see that number 21 retired sooner than later. But my fun, quick story that I want to share with you guys is, why am I so adamant? Why do I appreciate Roberto Clemente so much? Well, back in my 6th or 7th grade, I want to say it was 7th grade in my English class, my English teacher, Mrs. Killingsworth, shout out to you, Mrs. K, if you're watching this. I know you're not. You're probably not. You have no clue what I'm doing right now, and that's fine. She asked me, again, when I was an avid sports fan at the time, but wasn't involved in day-to-day baseball, obviously, like I am today. She asked me who Roberto Clemente is, and I honestly didn't know. So I was like, who is Roberto Clemente? And she broke down Roberto's entire story. And again, the crazy thing about this, folks, is that her husband, who I'm almost certain is Larry Killingsworth, who was drafted a pitcher by that being in, yes, the Pirates years ago, was a teammate of Roberto's towards the latter half of his career. They built a great bond, great relationship. So she explained this story to me, how, you know, not just Roberto, everything that he's done for the Pirates and, of course, for the Hispanic culture in baseball, but just how great he was in the community, to the point where she even had him at their house, which is, again, like not even 5 minutes away from me, from where I currently am sitting. And it's nuts because it was amazing to hear his story and to learn about Clemente for the first time. And ever since I learned, and knowing that, again, her husband was literally a former Pirates pitcher, was a close friend with his, was even close with the family, and she was close with Roberto's wife at the time. It's an amazing story. And again, it's always heartbreaking knowing how Roberto passed. But again, he passed doing what he loved. It was just a completely unfortunate situation, to say the least. So I have the utmost respect and the utmost love and appreciation for Roberto Clemente and what he has meant to the game of baseball and paving the way for the Hispanic players, especially today. Again, it would not be like this if it isn't for a guy like Roberto Clemente, who's inspired thousands upon thousands of players, not only just in the MLB, but across the entire globe. That is the type of impact that this man has had. So I just want to give a lot of props. Again, I want to give pay my homage to that being a Roberto Clemente, and why this game was even a little bit more amplified for me. Not for the Mets to get the win per se, but just how important Roberto Clemente Day is to me as a fan, and again, just as an overall person. McBlam, thank you so much for the dono. I appreciate that. Mets broke out for cookie for some much-needed comfort, 100% comfort food. Thank you so much for that dono. But yeah, I love Roberto to death, and to see, again, the guy who just won the Roberto Clemente Award a couple days ago to come out and do what he did, a couple years ago, rather, to do what he did tonight was phenomenal. So proud of Cookie. But let's break down what was a really good ball game for the team in Queens, guys. And of course, if this is your first time watching this, make sure that you chime in. Make sure you smash that like and subscribe and help us get to 18K subs for the next short-term goal. Help us get to 100 likes for the first short-term goal. We're trying to get to a couple hundred by the end of the live show. Appreciate all you guys to death. But the Mets, you had Cookie on the bump. You had that being in Brubaker on the bump, who exited this game because of injury only after 3 innings and throwing 71 pitches. But the Mets did a phenomenal job. Cookie Carrasco carving up hitters left and right. That's why I got Cookie carving on the thumbnail and on the graphic here, guys. Cookie comes out and he strikes out O'Neal Cruz, who's a young stud who's going to be a beauty once he puts it all together for the Pirates. Strikes him out. Reynolds with a single, Castro with a strikeout, Gamble with a strikeout would end the top of the first. In the bottom of the first, with 2 outs, the Mets getting back to their right ways offensively. Doesn't matter if you're on a two-out type situation, they're getting runs scored, and they did exactly that. McNeil with a base knock because, of course, McHitz does. McNeil's literally batting like 400 plus for the longest time now. He's really trying to make his case to win a batting title this year out of the NL. Alonso with an Oppo Bloop single. That was important to see, even though it wasn't a hit hard. Alonso's best play that we have seen all year long is when he's able to spread the fields, not only for power, but even for soft contact. I want to see more of that from Pete. I was very encouraged by his at-bats today. I would say that today, overall-wise, this was one of the better days that we've seen from Pete on a consistency level with his at-bats, and for the most part, in quite a bit. I mean, he's had some of these big games here or there, especially against Philly, like a month ago, but I'm very happy with what I saw from Pete tonight. And start with that Oppo Bloop single. Daniel Vogelbach, Vogie Hoagie, facing his former club. Didn't do too much against him the last time they matched up when the Mets won 2-3 thanks to that big doubleheader win, a sweep rather, in Pittsburgh. Vogie, however, a man that's on his redemption tour. Guys, make sure to check out the Daniel Vogelbach t-shirts that we have available at shop.Bleav.com. I put it on Twitter. I have it here also in the description down below. Check it out. They're only $25. You can get them in black, white, orange, and blue. Great shirt selection. Would highly recommend checking out. And stay tuned because we have more shirts that are going to be rolling out real soon and that are going to be funny for Mets fans. And if you're a fan of the opposing teams that they're relating to, you're not going to like them so much. So it's going to be fun as we get closer to playoffs. But check it out down below, shop.Bleav.com. But Vogie gets himself a massive 2 RBI double. Poor play by the right fielder there for Pittsburgh, gets over his head. And again, the Mets have an early 2-0 lead in the first. And when that happened, I was set in stone that the Mets were going to win this ball game because the vibe felt different tonight. It felt night and day from the previous 3 games that they played in Citi Field. And even though that Citi Field wasn't sold out tonight, they still put on a really good job. And that, again, is all you could ask for, regardless of the atmosphere that you're dealing with. Urme would fly out to end the inning, but the Mets are already up 2-0 here through the first inning. In the top of the second, Hayes with a strikeout, Mitchell with a walk, Chavis with an RBI double. The ice horse, as Jared Carabas would love to call him. Jared's the huge guy, of course, covering the Boston Red Sox for DraftKings and, of course, for his Baseball Doesn't Exist podcast. If you guys don't know, Michael Chavis, longtime Boston Red Sox, now Pittsburgh Pirate, has had himself a nice little season for the Pirates as well hitting. We'll see what happens with him in the offseason. But no less, Chavis gets that RBI double to make it a 1-run ball game. Zawinski with a K and Delay with a K as well. He was delayed on his swing. That led to that strikeout. Cookie Carrasco's already with 6 strikeouts in the first 2 innings. Are you joking, Cookie? Are you nasty? Yes, you are. Yes, he was at 45 pitches through the first 2 innings, but it didn't stop Cookie from just absolutely shoving against the team that he knew he could shove against and get those pitches exact. I mean, Cookie's off-speed stuff today was beautiful. I mean, he was some of the best pitches I think we've seen from Cookie all year long, all things considered. It was phenomenal to see. In the bottom of the second, we see there, we see, I'm sorry. In the top of the third, rather, because the Mets did nothing in the bottom of the second after it became a 1-run ball game. Cruz with a strikeout, and you see, as you saw in the graphic there, it literally got into the stands. O'Neal Cruz, who has broken every StatCast record this year as a rookie, between hard hit ball, between throwing the baseball. I mean, the guy's the size of Aaron Judge, and he has athleticism like no tomorrow. He swung the bat and struck out so bad, it literally got into a kid's hands in the stands. Hopefully she took that home. She deserves it, and no one was hurt, thankfully. But Cruz with a strikeout, Reynolds with a single. Again, the same exact scenario that happened the first inning happened again in the top of the third. Castro ground out, and Gamble with a strikeout to end the top of the third. In the bottom of the third, the Mets would tack on even more thanks to Francisco Lindor. Let's get into it. WardyNYM with another walk here. That's awesome. Lindor with a 2-run piss missile to right. Second deck in the Coke corner, going all the way far right there. That was great to see. Lindor now has a career-high 94 RBIs in a season. So for all the fair-weather schmuck Mets fans out there that said from the jump that Lindor would never produce similar, if not better numbers than what he had during his time in Cleveland, well, I'm ready to tell you this, guys. You were completely wrong. I know it's almost like you shouldn't have ran off one of the best shortstops in all baseball from the jump, regardless of his poor 2.5-month stretch to start his tenure with the Mets. That's how crazy some of you fans are. But to the Fairweather fans, happy to say you guys are schmucks once again. Lindor has a new career high 94 ribeyes on the year and is so close to 100 for the first time in his young career. Lindor with that 2-run bomb makes it a 4-1 ball game, everybody. Jeff hits right after with the McDouble rather. I love my McDoubles, and so does Jeff, right? Alonso with a base knock again, 2 for 2 already on the night. Daniel Vogelbach already only in the third inning with his third RBI of the night, rips an RBI single, gives the Mets a 5-1 lead at that juncture, and then the Mets wouldn't do anything for the remainder of the inning. And again, guys, that was an inning where the Mets still have bases juiced, no outs, could not get anything more than the 3 runs, but it wasn't a big deal at the end of the day. The same way as we got to the bottom of the 8th where the Mets had that same exact scenario. As long as they held their lead, that's what matters. And again, I'm not going to act spoiled or anything. I'm not going to get stubborn. The Mets literally had a total of 5 or 6 runs in the entirety of the Cubs series. I just want to make sure this team won, and they did it pretty well, even with stranding a bunch of runners on base when we look at the entire numbers as a whole. But in the fourth, the top of the fourth rather, Mitchell with a walk, Chavis with a single, Sawinski with a strikeout, delay grounds out to end the inning. Cookie is through 4 strong, only surrendering 1 run, and he'd have 2 more to go. In the bottom of the fourth, WardyNYM with a walk, Lindor line out, and then Nimmo will get to second base on a wild pitch. Mick hits with a flyout. Alonso intentionally walked. Vientos comes in, and I'm so happy. Thank you, Buck, for pinch hitting Mark Vientos against the lefty reliever that is Eric Stout and not Darren Ruff. Not that Darren couldn't have, hit in that spot. He broke his 0-for-18 skid yesterday, and the Mets lost in the series finale to the Cubs. But the point is that it was important to see Mark Vientos get more at-bats against these lesser opponents, and he made all of it, ripping his first ever career hit, opposite field, RBI single. Get that ball, baby. Mark Vientos has his first base knock in his MLB career. So happy for him. I hope his family was there because I know that they've been at games lately. Marky V gets his first base knock. That is huge. That's why he's on the thumbnail. I know Daniel Vogelbach had the best offensive day for the Mets overall, but Mark Vientos, again, it's your first career base knock, and it's an RBI, and it's opposite field. You had a nice at-bat. Hell yes. Hell yes, you're on the thumbnail. Happy to see that, Marky V. Hopefully the first of many in your young career. So Vientos gets it. That makes it a 6-1 ball game for the New York Mets. Only in the 4th inning, guys. They would do nothing else in that inning, and that's okay. We get to the 5th, guys. Cookie Carrasco with his first 1-2-3 inning of the day with 1 strikeout. That would tie a season-high 10 Ks on the year for him. And even though the Mets would do nothing in the bottom of the 5th offensively, Cookie would come back out for another 1-2-3 for his final inning. Final line, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts on 104 pitches. Carlos Carrasco, Cookie did not crumble. He carved. He had one of his better outings of the entire year. Season high 11 Ks. Thank you so much, Cookie. That is exactly why you are my number 1 star. And guys, continue to let me know your thoughts here in the live chat right now for people on replay. Let me know how you're feeling. Do you have a sigh of relief to an extent knowing that the Mets finally woke up? Both offensively and, of course, from the pitching side, because, again, the Mets didn't have the best starting pitching the past couple of days. They got that tonight, and, of course, they got that offense, which has been the most vital, the most important for this team to win ball games, because even if they have great pitching, if you have no offense that we've seen in recent games, it's not going to amount to anything. So a lot of positives. Let me know. And, again, I'm not saying that the Mets are completely back right now. The Mets are destined, regardless, to have one of their best seasons they already have in their season's history, franchise's history rather. 90 wins on the year now. The Mets have done amazing things all year long, even with their skid that they've been in the past, not just a couple days, couple weeks, but a month plus. This team is hopefully going to go places this year, and that needs to be recognized. So my big thing is that hopefully the Mets can continue to roll here over the next coming games, but this is the exact way that you start things off by saying that, yeah, you got to go game 1, game 2, game 3, take it game by game, and that's exactly what this Mets did in a positive manner to start this matchup against the Pirates, guys. So you see there, the Mets through 6 are up a total of 6-1. In the 7th, after the Mets do nothing in the bottom of the 6th, Seth Lugo comes in and just casually strikes out the side. Lugo, who's given up a home run in his last 2 outings back-to-back in Miami and then against the Cubs, he rebounds beautifully here with a 1-2-3, strike him out. How you doing? Get back in the dugout. That is the Pirates. The Mets are then continuing to roll here. In the bottom of the 2nd, Luis Gourmet would get his first base knock, and only base knock of the night with 2 hits. But again, the Mets would not score that inning. That's fine. In the 8th, Joely Rodriguez, who I never want to see in the 8th inning. However, when the Mets are winning by a total of 6 runs in their favor, I don't mind it nearly as much. And Joely would go on to get himself in the 8th, a 1-2-3 inning, including a strikeout, and then having himself a 1-2-3-9 to close out the game. But before we get there, in the bottom of the 8th, the Mets did not stop with their offense. They didn't score as much as maybe you would have expected when they had bases loaded, no outs, but they still were able to manage a run. Not in the way that you would want, however. Tyler Naquin, who had some rough at-bats, some rough back-to-back strikeouts in this one tonight, guys. He gets a double. Great to see to lead off things in the 8th. McCann with a walk. Nimmo with the walk. Bases juice. Lindor lines out right to the pitcher. He saves himself from getting drilled in the head. And then McNeil reaches on fielder's choice because they throw it home. They get the runner out of home. That was a Naquin. And then Alonso. First pitch thrown at him is a heater that slips out of the hand of the reliever, that being a Ramirez. It drills him. I think it was a 94 heater. I could be wrong. Alonso, again, now the Mets have been hit a season high among all MLB right now, 96 times tonight because of that Alonso drill. However, because bases were loaded, naturally that drives in a run even with 2 outs. The Mets would do nothing more. After that, Alonso leads the NL and RBIs with 112. I'm sure that's not the way he wants to get an RBI, but again, Alonso had a really good day today, so he deserved an RBI one way or the other. Not from getting drilled, but no less. I was happy to see him get it, all things considered. The Mets would end up winning this ball game by a final of 7-1. An impressive game for them, a nice bounce-back win, and hopefully this is the start of more to come. I feel like I've been saying this a lot with this team when they've been getting some nice, bigger wins. I mean, look, we saw what they did against the Pirates in that doubleheader. They scored a total of 15 runs to the Pirates 2 back in Pittsburgh. Then in Miami, they outscore the Marlins like 20-6 in games 2 and 3. And then you see here they get swept by the Cubs. So they come out tonight, they bounce back. What will they do tomorrow? I'm pretty sure Seabass is on the bump. We'll see, but more positives are on the horizon for this Mets team that's now 1 game up fully in the division until proven otherwise. If it either grows, stay the same, or lowers, depending on how the Braves play, because the Braves start a series tomorrow against the red-hot Phillies. The Phillies dropped their series finale after winning 5 straight tonight, 5-3. I lost my parlay. That's what I get for betting on the Phillies, and I also blame my co-host Joe for having the nerve to try to... He didn't sway me, but he dropped quite a bit on the Phillies. I'm like, that feels like a game that could come back to bite the Phillies a little bit. I'm not trusting Noah on the mound, and lo and behold, that would hold true. But regardless, guys, let's get into Wardy's top 5. We'll get into all the key updates on the Mets. Then I'll start to answer your comments, questions, and concerns. That's where I'll usually cut things off for people on replay. But number 1 star, Carlos Carrasco, baby. Cookie, you shoved. I don't think I need to say anything more. I loved your Arsenal tonight. Great start for Cookie Carrasco. Cannot emphasize that enough. In the number 2 spot, Daniel Vogelbach. Vogie going 2 for 2. He even had himself, did he have any walks today? No, he didn't. But Vogie, 2 for 2 on the night with that big RBI. 3 RBIs rather, starting with that big 2 RBI double in the first inning. My number 3 star, Francisco Lindor. He won 1 for 5, but he had that big home run, including those 2 RBIs. My number 4 star, I would have him higher normally because, again, it was a big hit for the first time in his MLB career, but I want to pay respect to the guys that were better offensively tonight. So Vientos in the 4th spot here, 1 for 3 with his first career hit and RBI. Marky V, hopefully this is more to come going forward. And my number 5 star, Jeff McHits, baby. This man, if he's not getting at minimum 2 hits a game, there's a problem, because that's how consistent this man has been for the majority of the season. That is why he very well could end the year being a batting title champ. 2 for 5 with the double, the 2 runs scored. Joey Pitchwell, I'm shocked. Yeah, me too, Dave. Thank you so much for the dono. That's what happens when he's in a low leverage situation. 6-run cushion entering the 8th at least. And then, of course, he had a 7-run cushion entering the top of the 9th. Joely had a nice outing today. Again, I'm not trusting that man in a 1-run ball game in tight games at all. But for tonight, given the circumstances, I allowed it personally as a fan mentally, and he held true to having himself a nice, successful outing, which was very neat. Hopefully that helps build his confidence, because clearly the Mets are still going to roll out this guy regardless on what our opinions are on him right now until proven otherwise. So that's where he's top 5. But guys, let's get into the key updates on the Mets right now. 1, Starling Marte, as we know, is still dealing with an ailment. I don't expect him to come back right off the IL because he needs to make sure that he can grip the baseball. Now, I don't know. The Mets may DH him to get him in the lineup sooner if they feel that as bad as needed. That's to be determined, but Marte is still a little bit away from returning to this club. What we do know, hitting coach Eric Chavez, as a quite surprise, is taking a leave of absence. The Mets hope that he will return for the Milwaukee series in Milwaukee next week. It's for a personal matter. I just hope for Chavez's sake that's nothing, nothing bad, nothing serious, nothing of that nature going on with himself or his family. Prayers are sent to him. Hopefully everything is fine on his front, and it's no biggie what's going on right now. Whatever it may be, that he's now no longer with the Mets until next week at minimum in Milwaukee. The big news today, guys, and this is something I debated on doing a video of, but I said we'll just talk about in the post-game show tonight. The Mets, that being and Steve Cohen and Sandy Alderson, both came into an agreement that they are going to be parting ways with Sandy as president of the team. Now, Sandy is still going to be staying in an advisory role to Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen has been close with Sandy for a while. He respects and appreciates his opinions. He needed Sandy to help sway the owners to get enough to vote him in to be the owner of the New York Mets. So for people that want Sandy out of the organization completely, you have to at least respect the fact that, again, if it isn't for Sandy, there's a decent chance that Steve Cohen is not owner of the Mets right now, because you needed someone that was a veteran in front offices, not only with the Mets, but with the Oakland A's and others, to really help give positive manner on what to expect with Steve Cohen as owner. And that helped pave the way for him as owner. So what we do know with Sandy Alderson is that when the Mets hired him as team president, it was never going to be a long-term thing, not only because of his health and his age, but just because the whole point was to help get things in a flow with the front office and get everything acclimated. He has officially done that. So Sandy Alderson is no longer team president. Once the Mets bring in someone new, they're already starting to get underway and going over guys that can be potential fits. We might see some names that we talked about last offseason for baseball ops / GM. It wouldn't be surprising if a lot of those names get thrown out there again. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Theo Epstein is going to become the team president of the New York Mets. I don't think that's going to happen. Billy Beane, as much as I love Billy, I'll be surprised if that happens too. But this is a discussion that I'd imagine we will have more come the offseason heading into next year, because, again, the Mets do not need to rush this move, but they are starting to be active and ongoing and doing this. Sandy's contract ends in December, so the Mets just made the announcement now in season, which is a little surprising, but that he's done as team president. And again, once they have a guy in place or an interim at minimum, then Sandy will be officially away, having his hands away from everything that role provides and, what you would expect from it as team president of the New York Mets. So that was the big news from the front office standpoint today for Sandy. Again, I don't believe it's health matter or anything like that, which is good news for him. And again, regardless on how you feel about Sandy Alderson, he is a guy that is not going to be having as much of an impact in this front office going forward, nearly as much as what he had to this point. And again, Sandy wasn't dictating everything, but he certainly did have a say and an opinion in decisions when it came to player acquisitions, among many other things. He was involved in it all, just to varying degrees, depending on one, the situation, and two, exactly when the Mets had GM or not. So once they got Billy Epler, he helped kind of guide him a little bit, but then Billy was able to handle his own, especially throughout the remainder of the offseason and the trade deadline. Whether that was a good or bad thing or not, that is yet to be seen. I mean, you guys have your opinions on that, but point being is that, yes, Sandy will no longer be team president. Be very interesting to see, and I'm sure I will cover it to a T in the offseason, assumably when the Mets make that hire prior to next season, and we'll break down it all leading up to that way, because just like we saw with the coaching staff hire leading up to Bucks, same thing with baseball ops, then turning to GM because the Mets couldn't get someone for baseball ops. And Billy, we covered it all every step of the way last offseason. I fully expect us to do the same this offseason for the most part. So that is the big announcement for the Mets front office. And then overall, let's get to some donos real quick, and then I'm going to cut things off for people on replay. I want to hear your thoughts, guys, in the comments below as well here in the live chat. And of course, for people on replay, in the comments down there. And make sure to smash that like and subscribe on if you guys are enjoying this Mets coverage. But before I actually actually get to the donos, I want to go through the Mets lineup as a whole because the top 5 does not give it enough justice. A lot of guys hit really well tonight and really had some nice at-bats, which is refreshing to say after them being the polar opposite for the most part of the past 3 days at minimum. Nimmo, again, 0 for 2 today, but 2 runs scored, 3 walks. Look, I will take Brandon Nimmo giving me 3 walks any and every day of the week. I can care less if you're going to hit or not, Brandon. Even if you're not hitting, grind out those at-bats. We saw that great eye at the plate that Brandon is known for, being one of the best on-base kings in baseball when he's right. That's a huge positive for him. Hopefully we see more of that. Doesn't need to be 3 walks, but give me at minimum a walk or 2 per game, not you striking out 2 times a game. Like, this was definitely positive for Brandon, at least for tonight. Lindor, we talked about him. McNeil, we talked about him. Alonso, 2 for 3 with the runs scored and the RBI and the walk. Again, one of the better games I think we've seen Pete had from an overall standpoint, both defensively and offensively, in quite a bit. I would 100% say that this game today was more impressive than the 2 games back-to-back the past 48 hours where you had home runs in those 2 games apiece. I mean, I love the home runs, Pete. I do, but I love a guy that, again, can show the well-roundedness that you provided in the first half of the season and starting in the second half. Hopefully we see more of that, Pete, because that is exactly what's going to help this Mets team. When you don't have that gaping hole of being a 1 for 4, 1 for 5 on a consistent night, but you can get a couple base knocks. You can take a walk, take your pitches, not chase as much. This is a confidence builder for him. And again, we all know how mental Pete is. He gets in his head easily. He's very hard on himself. He feels the pressure on his shoulders, being the heart of this Mets order. Hopefully this is of good things to come going forward for him as well. Luis Gourmet 1 for 3 today, and starting at second base. Eduardo Escobar 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. But again, I'm not going to great bat Eddie. I just hope that the Mets at some point can have the majority of the lineup in full swing of things with Eddie being a part of it. Because what we've seen, especially over the past couple of days and for the good portion of the stretch, the Mets going 5-7 through those first 12 games against lesser opponents, and Eddie was raking that throughout that entire time. I just hope that we can see Eddie still rake to an extent, with the rest of the lineup actually backing him up for a change on a consistency level. Naquin 1 for 4 with that key double to lead things off that ended up leading to the run that we saw there in the bottom of the 8th. Even though that he was at home, it was the run that came after him, but he was the starter there in the 8th. And McCann over 3 with a run scored and a walk. James McCann did not even have a bad day today. I liked his at-bats. He grounded out once, and then he had 1 strikeout, but he was barreling the ball not bad. Just got unlucky on one of his outs, too, that just couldn't get through. Nice play by the defense, that being for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So McCann's still giving me at-bats where I'm not really that dissatisfied with, which is crazy to say. I mean, I had him on the thumbnail for tonight's show prior to, of course, everything that happened throughout the game. Then I changed it, obviously, because he entered tonight's game with a couple home runs and only 4 at-bats, 3 for 4 in his career against Brubaker. He didn't get a hit tonight, not only against Brubaker, but against this entire Pittsburgh Pirates pitching staff. But point being is that the Mets catchers are still showing more and more that they're able to at least get on base, and they're able to at least have some quality at-bats and not looking lackadaisical out there like they did for quite literally the entire portion of the season up until this past 3 weeks. So I'm not complaining. Seth Lugo with the scoreless, saying Joely with 2 scoreless. Great to see, guys. So now I'm going to cut things off for people on replay and get your donations, comments. People on the live show, guys, what is your biggest takeaway from the Mets win tonight, winning by a final of 7-1 over the Pittsburgh Pirates in game 1 of their 4-game set? People in the comments below, let me know, what is your biggest takeaway from tonight's win, and how are you feeling? Do you feel sigh of relief at all? Do you feel that you need to see more games to really be swayed that this Mets offense can stay consistent? Because I feel the exact same way. I'm very happy with their outing tonight, but we just need to see more of it. And again, you don't need to score 7 runs every single game. I just need you to win ball games and make sure that you're not getting outpitched and outmatched offensively by these absolutely dog shit teams. Let's call it how it is. So that's what I need to see more from this team. Hopefully, again, this is a start of more good things to come. But guys, let me know your thoughts here in the live chat right now. And for people on replay, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. But this is where we're cutting things off.